Welcome back to Typically Unique. I'm Kim Aponte, and I'm here with my husband, Carlos.
Hello.
Today, we are going to recap and show some photos of things that we've talked about so far. Wanted to highlight some of those. And you can see here, we just have the room. We wanted to show, we've been referring it to the man cave. This is a little too bright for what the man cave looked like, but we had a nook. You can see in the background, we're kind of looking at it from the doorway. So if you walked in the door, to the right would be a TV in a wall unit of drawers, and we would be able to store, dry food, things like that in there. Was there a little refrigerator? I think we had a little refrigerator in there. Whiteboard, bathroom straight ahead, and we set up our little parent sleeping area behind that curtain, so they gave us some privacy. Aiden's Drew Brees jerseys hanging up there. That was his Halloween costume, and one of the many gifts that he received while he was there. And we had talked about the explosion story when Aiden was having some stomach issues. And this isn't that exact time, but, him being in the game room attached to that pole, and you can just see all the wires and pumps and everything that was attached, and just how hard of a time he would have if he would have waited and tried to disconnect everything with the game station. It would have been. And if you look on the pole at the bottom in the back, there's that's a blue bag. That's
where we kept it. Yeah, mm-hmm. the game unit, right?
Yep. And this is also in the game room. Aiden spent a lot of time there, and this is his little buddy. And that's also the baby that we talked about that would be rocked all the time when we walked by, and he was so cute. We got to know them really well, and he wanted to be around Aiden, so he would sit there while Aiden was playing his game, and you can see he has the TV remote in his hand. We gave him that, and he thought he was really playing the game. It was so cute. I know I have a journal entry about this moment because it was so precious. He would get mad if Aiden would crash or whatever he was doing in the game, and something would happen and the game would stop, and he'd get mad and look at Aiden like, "What are you doing? Make it keep going." And so this is Carly and that little guy's sister. And when Carly got to come to the hospital, she really got to know a lot of the siblings and hung out with them. And she was just so sweet, spending time with them and doing little crafts.
And if you remember, Carly was the assistant child life specialist.
Yes.
So she would try to do little crafts and games, with some of the littler kids on the floor. And one thing that we probably won't talk about today, but maybe in a future episode, is there was this program started by Mia Hamm called Super Sibs. And, Carly got into that a little bit. And it was important for Carly to be a part of this in some way. She was probably the least knowledgeable about what was going on. She was frustrated with that. But I think we started to realize that we needed to involve her a little bit more. And this was one of the ways. This is that picture that we always post on Facebook.
This, and I think the one right after it, my two favorite photos. She just looks so sweet and has just like a sadness at the same time, So that was her little clay snowman that she made. And the photo before that was a little window area that, here's another window area, just gave people a place to get out of the room and go sit for a while. So I love this photo. These are other children that she spent time with. This is Aiden having school in the game room. So he would sit there with his tutor.
Yeah, they I think they had a few sessions, but this wasn't anything that Aiden was overly excited about.
No, not at all. So again, Carly's time at the hospital was when we were switching between visits. So she wasn't always there for everything. And I believe this is, if not the first time, I think it was the first time that she saw Aiden, after he had his head shaved. So he always was wearing that baseball cap at the beginning, but he took it off to let her see. And, and she was concerned about him.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when she was there, they're not really interacting here, but, this is at the nurse's station. They just like to sit there. They felt special, and she just wanted to be where he was. And even if they just wanted to be, she wanted to be together with him. So this is a time we haven't talked about yet. And with AML, because we talked about how serious it is, right away, this is still probably September, I would think. They told us they were going to test each of us, me, Carlos, and Carly, to see if we would possibly be a match for a bone marrow transplant for Aiden. And that was a big deal, getting for Carly to get her blood drawn. She wasn't excited about that, but she was so brave, didn't really show it outwardly or complain at all. And I think because she saw what Aiden was going through, she wanted to put on a brave face. And she was so proud of herself, and we were proud of her too.
Right.
You can see all those tubes there on that table that they had to take. And just to follow up on that, none of us were a match.
No, not even close.
No, not even close. And they wanted that on standby as a backup because AML is difficult to get into remission. So I wanted to give a little tour. I was surprised that I had all these photos. I just went around the hospital one day and just kind of wanted to document everything. So this is just a wall. All the walls are just painted brightly to make it a nice environment for the kids. This is in the main part of the hospital. They had different hospitals adjoining to the center cafeteria. So we were in the children's hospital. There was a women's hospital. There was a general hospital. Definitely those three. And this is an area, like a gathering area in the middle, but they were remodeling it when we were there and just...
Was this outside?
It might be
I thought
in
you
between
could go outside
the
there.
buildings.
Yeah.
Yes. Just so fun. They had those little houses and just everything was like kind of backyard.
I don't think we ever went out there, even though that was available to
No,
us.
but we would pass it in the hallway because it was all windows. So
Yeah.
it was just so nice to see. This is the infamous foosball table. And here's a better shot of the game room. So the couch, the foosball, the table. You can see everything and all the art projects that they would do. And then this is just one of the main hallways on the floor we were on in the nurses' station. And you can see they pretty much always had chairs on the opposite side of the desk because anyone at any time would just go plop down and chit chat. They would even have babies out there, like they would want to see the babies and have them on the desk. And we did have some food items that we could keep in our room, and I don't know if all children's hospitals offer that, but this was kind of the central location that everybody shared. So always coffee there. There was a large fridge. You had to, if you brought anything in that was yours to put in this big fridge, you had to they'd give you a special sticker. They would print them out with your name and the date and everything because they wouldn't want anything to stay in there too late. And they made sure they kept it stocked. And that's another thing that I don't think we found out for a while is that things from the cafeteria, boxes of cereal, crackers, little containers, peanut butter and jelly, things like that, that were always there that you could just grab last minute. And no, I didn't find that out for a while.
Yeah, and they did have a few other things that would go on outside of the hospital. And sometimes there were shared events, and sometimes they're individual. This was a racetrack I used to race at, and I had found out that they were going to have a special Ronald McDonald House fundraiser. So they were going to do some karting, and some of the proceeds go to Ronald McDonald House. So Ronald McDonald himself showed up. Carly and I, because I would be home on the weekends, Carly and I went to this, and we had a chance to, help support some of the things that were supporting us.
Right.
And she got a chance to maybe help in her own way, right? To be involved in some way, shape, or form. So that's Carly on the carts.
And
there.
we weren't getting out to do too many fun things with her. So this was just, she loved it. She loves that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I just wanted to show, this was the ad that they have to collect those pop tabs. So they do use them. They call it Pull for the House. So at the end of our last episode, we were talking about Aiden getting to go home and how I was in a meeting. And I had to share, when I say that I literally packed up at the last minute when I got that phone call from Carlos, I got the phone call. I'm in this, and it was a big district meeting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Aiden's coming home, and everybody was so supportive and so happy. They were like, go, get out of here, and they were clapping, like, yay, he gets to come home. And when I picked Carly up, we knew soon he would be coming, so we had the supplies on hand. So we made a banner, and this is what he looked like, and Carly is kind of cheering in the background. And before he came home, our friends and family came over for a whole day of just deep cleaning the house, and we repainted his bedroom, lakeside colors, his school colors. So we wanted to surprise him with something like that when he came home. So he liked it. I think I skipped one. And this is just him hanging out with some friends. They're all on their little games playing, hanging out. And when he visited school, we talked about his class picture. So he's there with his class, and he's smiling in that picture. He was so happy.
Which typically doesn't happen, but
Yeah. This is his friend that greeted him at the door and brought him in. They were all excited. And then at Halloween time, so we'll be talking about Halloween more for round 2. That was definitely during round 2. But I talked about making the hands for the door, and I think the next one shows it better. So the vision, we had this mask, so I think, or maybe that's what he picked out from the things that they offered at the hospital. And so Aiden came up with this idea for the hands, and looking at this, I remember they were clay because I've got duct tape like going up over the door, holding them on, but it came out pretty cool. Just like we thought, it'd be a body. It would just
kind of a 3-dimensional thing coming out of the door. So kind of hard to tell in the picture, but those are actually protruding out of the door. So yeah. And that was his own mold model.
Those
right?
are his hands.
Yeah.
I don't have those anymore. And they cannot have live like plants and pumpkins and things like that up at the hospital because they don't want bacteria and all that stuff. So when I say like they think of everything and try to do everything for these kids, they sent up these styrofoam pumpkins for them to carve. So they were always doing things like that. And everybody made their own little display outside. And I had talked about the central area. So you can see the stage set up there. That's where they would do that bingo during the week. And the windows there, so you can see in. And that's just a gathering place. In this photo, they had trick-or-treating for kids in the rest of the hospital, but the kids on the second oncology floor couldn't go down. So this is also where they would set up to pick out their costumes and all that stuff. So on Aiden's floor, they just got to go around from room to room, and the nurses were handing out things, and Aiden dressed up as a football player, and he's sitting there outside his door handing out candy. And then if you remember, our friend that we called Matt that would hang out with us at the nurses station, this was his display that they came up with. So we got a kick out of it because he was just always doing fun things.
A little extra.
Yeah, a little extra. That was, I believe this is his son's robe and slippers that he put on, so it was funny. Then when Aiden got to come home, after round 2, it was it was right at Halloween time. So typically my mother-in-law would sit and pass out candy and we would walk around the neighborhood. But since Aiden just came home and he had to stay home and it was nice enough out, we let him sit and pass out candy and he enjoyed that. You try to do the things you can.
Right. And we, a lot of things we started doing, I don't know if it was absolutely right away, but we really wanted to track a lot of the things. Aiden had certain goals to either get him home or get him out of the room, or he could go to the game room. And he would always ask me, hey, where are we at now? So I just made like this visual board. There's a big whiteboard in the room. So I just started charting all the things that pertain to Aiden in some way, whether he had, the ANC is, once his neutrophil counts went down to 0, he would have to get to 200 before he was allowed to go home in each one of those 5 rounds that he had to do. So we would know that 200 was the goal, and then every morning in rounds we would get the numbers and we would chart it on like a little thermometer.
Yep. It was hard to capture. I couldn't capture the whole board. So it was this huge round whiteboard that took up a pretty good chunk of the wall. So every day we would have, the numbers like he was saying. So you can see on different days, oh, here's your platelet number, because that's something that we were tracking, and the thermometer that we had talked about is right here. So we'd start that probably after his counts had gone to 0, and then we were waiting for them to go back up to that 200 mark.
Right. And it would slowly move. I mean, some days I could get it up to like 80 or 100, and then they would come back in and say, well, you're at 60 today, and I'd have to erase it, and he would be annoyed if we were going the opposite way. But yeah, it was a good visual tracker for him.
Yeah, those were the typical things we would track, but anything that came up, and that's, we were super involved. And when we would go to rounds and we would hear things, or if issues came up, that whiteboard, we just took it over. I think it was really supposed to be for the nurses. They would put their little magnetic name card up there, and sometimes they would write things on there, but we would chart things. This was just an example of, they had, I don't know, Aiden had some issue going on with his weight, and they had given him Lasix because he was retaining water, and then it was too much, and they wanted him to gain weight. So we start tracking it, it was comforting. It was something we could manage, and it helped Aiden visualize it too, so he knew what was coming up. So
yeah, and one more thing about this, which is just an obscure thing that we ultimately tracked, but sometimes the doctors and nurses would come in and almost ask us, like during not rounds in the morning, but maybe during just a regular check-in or something. Oh, how's his weight been? How's his,
Oh, right.
We had that information. We didn't have to go to,
yes.
To the rounds numbers or anything like that. We had everything visual for us as well. So it was for Aiden and it was for us to have the information. And then when Kim would come in, like on the weekends, she could see, a week's worth of data charted out for her to say, wow, he was retaining water on the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Right.
And now, maybe he got some Lasix, and now he's actually starting to, even out, level out. And we could see, hey, maybe he's starting to gain again. Do we need to check this again? So it was good for us and him as well.
Yeah, between the whiteboard and the binders and the journal.
Yeah, a lot of data points.
Different places to keep things. But those were the highlights and things that we had visually to share of what we've talked about so far. So we'll be talking about round 2, what round 2 is like for us on our next episode. And we hope you will join us back. And we will see you then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.